But let me first recognize our PS Susan Mangeli. Thank you for always your support and being with us and really working with these SMEs and MSMEs so that we don't leave the M. And of course, our director from KEPSA, who's been baptized as the chair of KEPSA today, is the director of SMEs and gender in KEPSA. Partners, Equity, Capital FM, KAS, and others. I really, really want to appreciate all of you for really joining us this morning, and all the others who are here today, as you can see with their different logos. We do not take it for granted, and I know you're all here to support this great agenda of our enterprises because they are the real backbone of the economy. And we've heard the statistics of what the SMEs and MSMEs are. But let me just begin by saying that as I sat here today, one of the things that I thought about is that this platform has really become a very important place to dialogue, to collaborate, to innovate, and to take action around growth and transformation. And as I listened to my brother from Equity, I thought, really, we have no reason to keep talking about financial challenges for this sector. I think Equity and others are really put their foot forward to make sure that that's no longer an issue we talk about for SMEs and MSMEs. And so today it's not just another conference. We are strengthening a movement and recognizing MSMEs as the real backbone of the economy and foundation of inclusive prosperity. Because you can have prosperity, but if you have 1% of the economy that only benefits and everyone else is left behind, then that's not a real economy. And we really are grateful that this sector really champions that inclusiveness of the economy. And so as we look at across the world, what we are seeing is businesses are navigating unprecedented change driven by technological disruption. So if you are not able to be technological savvy, you'll be left behind. And so part of the reason why we convene every year is to say, where are we in terms of technology? How can we use technology to make sure we are advancing and growing our businesses? Evolving consumer preferences. When we were just going through a few stalls today, and somebody gave the PS, I think it was a shower gel, made of vanilla and yogurt. Those are the preferences that are changing of our consumers. Today, people want what they consider healthy living, And so if you're still making your products with lead and mercury, you're really quite out of touch with who the consumer is. Climate challenges, and we're living at a time when we cannot ignore what's happening in our climate. How we deal with our waste disposal and our forests and how everything comes together that ensures that our climate can continue to support our businesses. Geopolitical uncertainty. Today you wake up, there's Iran war. Tomorrow you wake up, there's Israel. The next day you wake up, there's Russia. You never know what you wake up to. And so if your market was Middle East, tomorrow you realize there are no ships going to Middle East because something has happened, and so you have to think of another market. So being so aware of what's happening in the world so that you are not left behind or you don't collapse when one area of business cannot work. Maybe that's why you are getting, one area you are getting maybe your raw materials. So how are you making sure that you are really expanding your businesses and your sources and your markets so that if something happens today to one market or one source of material, your business does not die? And shifting economic realities. We cannot predict what tomorrow will be. There are lots of changes in the economy, even in our own country. Things keep changing, and so one of the things that is so important for us as business, whether you're big or small, is information. And so you have to look for that information. But thank you to technology. Today we don't have to all buy newspapers if we can find them online. We don't have to travel far distances to find different information. It's all within our hands using technology. And so let's really be curious to what's happening around us in the world and all. And in Kenya, as we look at this MSMEs and we keep looking and saying, what are these barriers that we keep talking about? And That's what we are addressing. We've just heard from Equity in terms of access to finance, and I'm sure others will be saying the same. Constrained market access, and those are the logistical, the regulations that we need to raise. What are those challenges that we face? And our products are great. Every time I think of what can I wear that is Kenyan, even as I wear something else. And as I was wearing this today, and I thought, there are many places around the world that make chokers, but our chokers are just as good, for the world market. And so the idea is we must get them to the rest of the world. It's not to say our limitations, is what must we do to get these products to the rest of the world. Government is here. We had in the earlier panel that we found that was ending about taxation. We all must pay our dues. Give Caesar what belongs to Caesar. But what is what we must do to be able to survive as businesses, as startups, as MSMEs, as medium companies and large companies, and that's where government comes in. And that dialogue, which is what we champion as KEPSA, to sit with government and really say, government needs revenue to give us the roads, the water, and we need to pay the taxes. But what kind of taxes will enable us grow? Because taxation is not supposed to be a burden. It's actually supposed to help us grow as businesses, because we get provided by the government the services. And then again, technology, what are those gaps that we need to fill? AI is here. We must use AI as businesses. However small you are, you have to know what AI is and how to use it. Otherwise, you'll be left behind. Because as we said, what our theme is today, it's not about surviving. It is moving to the next level. A lot of times when we've had this conversation, we talk about survival. I'm just surviving. As long as I can still sell, I'm just surviving. That's not the conversation we want today. Our conversation is growth. When you look at countries like China, all they are looking for is where to push their products, and we shouldn't just be receiving, we should be also having that same conversation. Where are we pushing those products? And maybe the conversation to have with government as they open for those countries to push their products, they also must open for us. It has to be reciprocal, so that they're also opening for us for the markets, because our goods are as good as theirs, and we keep improving on our goods. So our commitment as KEPSA is to enterprise development that goes beyond advocacy. And over the years, as KEPSA, we have directly implemented transformative programs that have expanded opportunities for entrepreneurs, youth, and women across the country. And through such initiatives like a Jira digital program, which again is so great for those who are in business to understand how you can use your skills, both services and goods, through the digital platforms to do business, has opened pathways for the digital economy. And through the Digital Skilling and Employment Advancement and Kenya AI Skilling Alliance, who we have put in the people in the AI to an alliance and are being hosted by KEPSA, is to prepare these enterprises and workers for the future, for our future. We also do what we call the MSME Financing Gateway. Thousands of businesses now have easy access to financial institutions. That's why they can be here. Business development service providers and enterprise support solutions. While Nairobi remains our key hub, accounting for 27.3% of the program's share for participation, the majority of our enterprises supported are distributed across the remaining 47 counties in the country, reflecting our role to expand businesses and opportunities beyond urban centers and strengthening regional enterprise ecosystems. There are many times people ask me, how come we don't see KEPSA chapters or offices in the counties? And I tell them, you feel our presence through the programs we do. We don't need an office, because the office is not what you need. What you need is something that grows your enterprise. And these programs, that's why we ensure that they are all over the country. So we are spread out. If you go to Kakuma, today you'll find us doing a Jira digital program, in those kind of places, refugee camps. If you go to any part of this country, there's no part you will not find us working with either MSMEs or the young people or women and all. So that's really what our work is as KEPSA, to say we are national, and it's not about us opening offices. And beyond the numbers, The program is driving tangible enterprise level change. So we're transforming SMEs from cash flow instability to operational stability, increasing sourcing capacity, expanding into new markets, and building confidence to engage with formal financial system. And I'll give you 2 examples of young people who've been part of us. Lilian Muiruri, a co-founder of AgriSafe Kenya Limited, overcame persistent cash flow challenges in the honey trade through support from the Jinue Growth Program, and you see the consortium that we work with of different organizations as part of the logos that you can see. And with improved financial management and access to funding, she has stabilized her operations, increased sourcing revenue volumes, particularly from Tanzania, hired additional staff, and strengthened her ability to meet institutional demand consistency. Her business has transitioned from constrained supply to reliable market presence, with plans to further expand into new product lines, reflecting how targeted financial support can unlock growth and resilience. Another one, Kimani Masharia, founder of Cargo Direct Shipping and Logistics, leveraged benchmarking tours under the Jinue Growth Program. Remember, Lilian worked with the finance side. This one just benchmarked on the tours, and to gain practical insights into corporate governance, operational systems, and strategic partnerships. Through exposure to established companies like AGL, he developed a clear vision for scaling his business from a startup into a structured competitive enterprise. This experience has strengthened his operational approach, expanded his networks, and positioned his company for long-term growth. So this is what we offer, so that it's just not when you hear a program, you say, oh, is there money there? Is there just, can I access markets? Even just being part of the program and going to see what other companies are doing, then you gain some experience and partnerships. So this period of reflects a clear strategic shift from training MSMEs to enabling national enterprise ecosystem. And so we've moved as KEPSA beyond delivering isolated interventions to building a connected system where finance, capacity building, and market access reinforce each other. So we just don't do one. We say, how do they all connect? The journey of this conference itself reflects the growth importance of enterprise development within Kenya's economic agenda. The first one we ever held in 2024 brought together more than 800 participants. The second one brought up together 2,100. I can't wait to see what the third one brings. But that's just not the numbers. It's what happens after these numbers come together. That is what is key for us. It's also what helps us realize where do we need our targeted interventions, where do we need to get partners, in which areas do these enterprises need help. So the future of enterprise growth will increasingly be shaped by technology and innovation, artificial intelligence, digital commerce, data analytics, and emerging technologies. That is what will redefine competitiveness. Without embracing this, you'll remain behind. You'll be that small little duka at the corner that will survive, or you'll be that supermarket that grows because of embracing this. Sustainability is also key. To be competitive, businesses must increasingly operate in ways that balance profitability with environmental stewardship, as I mentioned, and social impact. So you have to think about the triple bottom line. The economy, how are you making profit? 2, social, how are you affecting the people who are around you? And 3, the environment, how are you affecting the environment within where you work? Are you keeping the environment safe and secure for future generations, or are you depleting it that no one else after you will be able to use that environment? To our members, partners, development partners, financial institutions, and ecosystem partners, I cannot say thank you enough for your commitment to strengthen Kenya's entrepreneurship landscape. Your investments, partnerships, and support continue to create meaningful opportunities for businesses across the country. And to the government of Kenya, particularly you, the PS, we appreciate the continued collaboration and commitment to really creating an enabling environment for these enterprises. And we remain ready to continue to work together on any reforms that this sector needs. that today when we look at all these countries, every country talks about it was built by the backbone of SMEs. Kenya is no different. And so working together, we really must ensure that Kenya moves from surviving to competitiveness and to growth. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, ma'am, for that. Let's appreciate her one more time. Asante sana.